Surge in hate crimes against Asian Americans only getting worse, and some of the accounts are extremely violent.
And in this country, what should be a celebratory time coincides with a disturbing surge of racist attacks against Asian Americans.
Fighting back against hate, support is growing for the AAPI community after a rise in attacks on Asians and Asian Americans during the pandemic.
Now top lawmakers are taking that fight to Capitol Hill.
We're about to show the latest attack, but a warning to you now, it is difficult to watch.
Since the start of the pandemic, hate crimes targeting Asian Americans have increased by 150% in cities like New York and Los Angeles. People want someone to blame, but their anger and frustrations are pointed towards the wrong community. When Donald Trump was faced with controlling the spread of the virus rather than keep American people safe, he claimed it was fake, then targeted Asian Americans with hateful rhetoric.
Chinese virus will be invoking the Defense Production Act just in case we need it.
Why do you keep using this?
Because it comes from China.
Racist.
It's not racist at all, no, not at all. It comes from China.
Calling it the Chinese virus, Wuhan virus, and Kung flu did nothing but fan the flames of discrimination. It's no secret that his presidency inspired white supremacist groups, a resurgence in police brutality, and even an attack on the Capitol. America was built on systemic racism, and it's up to us to hold the system accountable.
Foreign policy in regards to Asia, but if you look at foreign policy in general, it has a large impact on so many countries around the world, but this one in particularly, there's a link between the ambitions in East Asia and how that translates over to perceptions of Asians in general. Asian Americans just being, one subset of that group. That part definitely needs to be looked at closer because it's always been there, but it's just not often recognized. Like there's a deeper level of social perception at work there, I think.
While I was going to shop at H Mart, I saw a man waving around an American flag. As I got closer, I realized he was wearing a Trump shirt and a Trump-Pence flag as a cape. At first, this can be seen as weird support for a presidential candidate, but this was on March 13th, 2021, 3 months after the election, so I see it as nothing but racism. This man woke up, got dressed, went to an Asian community to target Asian people. On March 17th, around 10:30 a.m., Zhao Zhenze has to defend herself on the street from an assailant. She is now donating the $1 million raised for her medical bills to StopAAPIHate.org. On March 16th, the man was arrested for killing 8 people at 3 different Atlanta area spas. He killed 6 Asian women, 1 white woman, and 1 white man. However, the police didn't label this as a hate crime. Rather, they said that the suspect's sex addiction was the issue. Whenever a white terrorist commits mass murder, they're never at fault. It's always just a mental health issue or a bad day, and then the police take him to get Burger King afterwards. There's a weird double standard when it comes to Asian discrimination. We're hated for things like our skin, our eyes, our food, and our accent, yet these same races love to fetishize us for the same reasons. Trends like the fox eye where models pull back on their face to change their eye shape are seen in a good light. White Americans love Japanese and Korean culture, things like ramen, K-pop, and anime, yet they hate the Chinese because they eat cats and dogs, and they hate the Vietnamese because they're communists or prostitutes. You can't sit there and pull from certain cultures and stand idly by while those same cultures are getting attacked on the streets.
Yeah, as a Vietnamese immigrant living in America, it's really easy to see how different, the different types of Asians are treated. At least from my perspective, it's always felt like if you were Japanese or Korean or Chinese, you were automatically a cut above the rest of the Asians, like being Thai or Cambodian or Vietnamese or Filipino. For some reason, it always felt like we were grouped into like the less cool Asians, which doesn't really make sense because you can't just cherry pick certain aspects of a culture and use it for your own entertainment and then bash other people that also do the same thing. So it's always been weird. And I remember when I was younger, I remember wanting to be like, man, I wish I was Japanese or I wish I was Chinese, which doesn't make sense to a kid. Like race, as a child, we don't really understand that concept just because everyone's just human at that age.
Hollywood's depiction of Asians has been historically racist. Look at Mickey Rooney in Breakfast at Tiffany's, Apu from The Simpsons.
Thank y'all, come again.
Tilda Swinton in Doctor Strange. There wasn't good Asian representation until Asian people started making movies. The Farewell, Crazy Rich Asians, and Minari are just the start. White Americans use the model minority myth to drive a wedge between and justify their actions towards the Black, Hispanic, Latin, and other Asian communities. They say things like, oh, well, if the Asians come here and be successful doctors and businessmen, then why can't you? Actively ignoring that they're keeping those communities from doing so.
And that's when I was like, oh no, we really are from two different generations. Like BMX bikes aside. Like my dad's from that generation, like a lot of immigrants, where he feels like if you come to this country, you pay this thing like the American dream tax, right? Like you're gonna endure some racism, and if it doesn't cost you your life, well, hey, you lucked out, pay it. There you go, Uncle Sam. But for me, like a lot of us, I was born here. So I actually have the audacity of equality.
Asians have historically supported the civil rights movements and still do. Yellow Peril supports Black Power. Yuri Kochiyama is an important Japanese-American woman to the movement and a close friend to Malcolm X. As we grow up in more diverse and educated communities, we eliminate the stigmas that previous generations had. We need to come together and realize it's not us versus them. It's the 99% versus the 1. We need to focus on our actual enemies, the willfully ignorant. The people who allow Donald Trump to take office and inspire hate. The people that use that hate to attack your loved ones. We are not a virus.